Welcome back, everyone. Today we're going to do something a little different, and we're going to do a review of The Batman. The Batman is directed by Matt Reeves from the last two Planet of the Apes movies. It also stars Colin Farrell, Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman, Jeffery Wright as Commissioner Gordon, and Robert Pattenson as the Batman. LaShawn, how'd you feel about the story of the movie?
It was long. Gives you a lot of information about the city, the crime in the city, and Batman. It was not a lot of action to me.
Okay, so for me, I like these kind of thriller movies. In the comic books, Batman is the world's greatest detective, and this movie really leans into that. Batman is trying to solve crimes most of the movie. So it is a long movie, but it also moves at a pretty fast pace. There's not a lot of just dull spaces where you can just kind of get up and leave and come back and think you're going to follow along. Pro tip, you may not want to get a drink before the movie because you may have to get up and use the restroom and you might miss something. As far as the story, like I said, Batman is putting together a lot of pieces of puzzles. He's being sent notes by the Riddler during his crimes, and there's some organized crime elements in the movie that get revealed later on. So, LaShawn, how'd you feel about the action scenes that were in the movie? Fights, car chase.
If I had to compare, this wasn't really it for me. I've seen better. I would say that.
Okay. For me, I thoroughly enjoyed the action scenes because they were a lot more realistic, in my opinion. Batman wasn't a indestructible ninja like he has been in other movies. But I can see Sean's point about the action scenes because it's not an action-heavy movie. It's a story-driven movie.
It is.
Yeah, it's not, you're not going to see John Wick with this movie.
I mean, even with John Wick, some of the stuff that he did in there, you were like, yeah, exactly.
That car chase, though, it was pretty awesome.
Right, I didn't want to go into that,
yeah.
So that's why I said,
The Batmobile is just a loud muscle car. It's not the tumbler from the previous
which
movie.
Was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The tumbler was pretty cool.
It was very cool.
Yeah. Was this movie too long?
Yes. Absolutely.
Not for me.
Absolutely, because I can tell you right now, if you could cut at the beginning, to me, you can cut some scenes out and kind of just condense it a little bit because I know based off the clues and stuff he had to go through, yes, you needed that to kind of explain putting the puzzle together. I got it. But there are some scenes I feel like just wasn't needed. It just didn't need to be there.
Okay.
And I wish we had done this last night because it was more
fresh in your mind,
on my mind than it is right now.
Well, for me, I appreciate longer movies as long as they keep my interest, and this movie definitely kept my interest. The whole mystery and solving it and everything, it just intrigues me. I kind of loved. I thought the length of the movie was perfect. It's right under 3 hours. It's like 2 hours and 56 minutes.
It could have been 2 hours.
Definitely not. It definitely could have been 2 hours.
They would have cut some of the scenes out. You didn't need a lot of that stuff in there.
The other solution is it's a 3-part series on HBO.
Okay, but see, the thing is, I'm not a comic book person. I didn't read comic books coming up, so his view and my view are gonna be totally different because I just feel like 3 hours, like really, just get to the point.
It was 2 hours of action.
Let's get it. Let's get it. You know.
So my final verdict for this movie was a 9 out of 10. I thoroughly loved it. I thought it was pretty excellent. The only reason I didn't give it a 10 is because I love Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight just a hair more. I think The Dark Knight takes the top spot in my list of favorite Batman movies, just because when we originally went to see it, 2008, it kind of blew my mind. It was totally different, and of course the Joker was awesome, but that movie was excellent. It's basically perfection in my eyes.
So what are you proposing?
It's simple. Kill the Batman.
And this movie is pretty close to that for me.
You're part of this too.
Hands up! Stay still!
How am I part of this?
My score?
Out of 10.
Out of 10, 7.5. And I know you're like, really?
7, that's respectable.
7.5, yeah.
That's a C.
I would say my favorite was The Dark Knight Rises.
With Bane.
She
loves Bane.
What are you? I'm Gotham's reckoning.
The fight scene with Bane and Batman was intense and very,
go ahead.
very action-packed, and it felt realistic to me. I'm not knocking Pattinson.
Yeah.
He did a great job, and it takes some, I guess, adapting to a new actor.
Right.
And I'm not knocking his skills, but it's Dark Knight Rises was just better for me because I like action, and I felt like that was a story with that one as well, and it kept me engaged more. This one took me a minute. At the beginning, it started off slow, and then eventually I'm watching it, but I felt like just get to the point. I'm sorry, it's just get to the point.
And from my point of view, I didn't want it to hurry up and get to the point because I was so engaged in what was going on. I wanted to enjoy all the clues and the mystery.
I'm not saying you have to take out the mystery, the clues. You can still get to that point with those mystery and clues and just condense it. It don't take 3 hours to get to the point.
Well, at this point, we're done with our spoiler-free review and discussion. So, if you haven't seen the movie, you can stop the video here. If you have seen the movie, continue. So now, let's do a little spoiler discussion. First, since my wife did mention Bane, it's something I noticed in the Batman at the end when Batman is seemingly down. He goes into his utility belt, takes out a vial of bright green liquid that looked kind of like a big EpiPen, jams it into a pre-made socket in his suit and injects himself. Immediately, I thought of the Venom serum from the comic books that gives Bane his super strength. So I don't know if that was like a little Easter egg to maybe introduce Bane later, or just Batman giving himself a shot to get up and beat somebody up. I don't know if you even noticed that.
I did notice that. Because I was thinking he was giving him some type of adrenaline EpiPen because he didn't want the dude to do whatever he was doing to Catwoman.
Right. Also, the Riddler, when he ends up in Arkham at the end, and the person in the neighboring cell is talking to him, and he's having a conversation with him, and you can kind of barely see his face, and his face looks disfigured and maybe burned or something like that. So immediately we both said, oh, that must be Two-Face. But they haven't introduced Harvey Dent in this movie. So in my mind, I'm like, I don't know why have Two-Face already in Arkham. You haven't even said anything about Harvey Dent. Also, this guy mentions becoming a clown while he's talking. So I said, "Oh, that must be the Joker." Did a little research. I cheated a little after we watched the movie. The director pretty much confirmed that it is the Joker, and explained his reasoning behind his face and everything. And that person is, I can't remember the actor's name, but he's in the Eternals. He's the one that could control everyone else. I can't remember the actor's name. I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. But he's the one playing the Joker, potentially in a future movie. Any parts of the story that stuck out to you?
The part of the story that stuck out to me, I liked the fact that it gave the history about his father, like what his father was trying to do, and how he was trying to help these orphan kids. Mm-hmm. However, I like the fact that the Riddler was exposing people or these, crime bosses.
And just corrupt people in general.
Right, from the very top all the way down. Mm-hmm. And doing all of that, the Batman became vulnerable. Mm-hmm. Because it was exposing part of himself, part of his family history that he didn't know about.
Correct. About his mother and his father.
Right. And so, and he had this serious hard shell, like he was numb from the very beginning all the way through until, spoiler alert, mm-hmm. I can't think of the butlers. Alfred was injured. And he, that shell started to crack, and in my opinion, started to crack. He became vulnerable because there is a scene where he was questioning or making statements about Alfred not being a Wayne, mm-hmm. and not his father. Mm-hmm. But Alfred has been the only person who has taken care of him, who's been a father mm-hmm. to him, and he didn't even recognize any of that mm-hmm. because he was so
wrapped up in himself and his own
feelings of not having his family, his dad,
and wanted to get revenge.
Right.
And he had a false. He thought his father was more perfect than he actually was. Yes. And then the Riddler kind of exposed a little corruption from mm-hmm. his dad, who was mm-hmm. a good person, but who made a bad mistake. When he found out, he was initially upset with Alfred, and Alfred explained to him, why it happened the way it did. Yes. And he kind of came to terms with that. Also, the movie, one thing is very clever about this movie is that the Riddler seems to know everyone's dirt. Yes. He seems to know everything.
Yes.
By halfway through the movie, you assume that the Riddler knows who Batman is.
Yes.
Like, you definitely think the Riddler, he definitely knows that Bruce Wayne is Batman. But leave
that part out. Don't bring that part in. That, I feel like you need to leave that little piece for people.
We'll wait.
Yes. I don't think you need to.
There's a twist. There's definitely a twist here. You do get a sense of the Riddler doing what he does you think the Riddler wants to be a crime fighter on one side and Batman is a crime fighter on the other side, and they're both fighting corruption.
Right. But you would think the Riddler was not who he was because of all the information he had. Mm-hmm. You would think he was part of the group.
Right. Right, yeah. You think he was part of the corruption.
Right, because he knows so much about all those people. You would think like he had to be a part of it, and the reason why he may have been an informant. Right. Until you find out exactly how he knows the information, you would be like, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a pretty good twist. And
I would say
you will kind of love it. I promise you.
Now that part I would say was very good at bit of the suspense part of it.
Because you definitely,
Yes.
without explaining what happened, you definitely, the movie definitely tricks you into thinking one
Yes.
thing.
And
And it even drags you further, like, oh, hey, I figured that out earlier. And you're like, oh,
no.
I didn't figure it out.
No. And now, as far as the plot and that, like I said, the storyline, very well written.
Yeah, that was excellent. That was excellent.
Yes.
So, like I said, my final thoughts, 9 out of 10. I thought the movie was excellent. I may even go as far as say 9.5, just because The Dark Knight to me is a perfect 10.
Well, if I had to talk about the plot, the storyline of, the way it was written, I would give it 8.5. But the length and just 7.5. I'm sorry. And the action, 7.5.
All right. Well,
it would have been a 10 out of 10 if it was action packed.
Right.
The storyline, the plot.
Right.
2 hours and 20 minutes, maybe. Right. I give you 2 hours and 20 minutes.
Right. I will say there is don't go into this movie expecting there to be some connection with any other like DC properties. There's no mention of Superman or Aquaman or the Flash or anything like that. So don't even go in expecting that. This is its own movie.
Yes.
If they decide to do something with that later, fine. But I don't think Matt Reeves wanted to be trapped into staying with some kind of continuity that wasn't part of his story. So that being said, that's the end of our review. Thank you for watching.
Yes.
Like and subscribe if you like our content. And we'll be back with some more reviews. Could be products, could be movies, television shows.
And click the bell.
Click the bell. Yep. Get those notifications. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.